critics always hate the films we think are great, but only one appreciates them all. He serves us every day, he keeps the trolls at bay, though he may be a shade delusional. The shelter of his mouth is moist, he will not give you any choice. Agree with him or else, because he is the film defender.
I'm Captain Jack Sparrow, savvy?
Yar, matey. Welcome to episode 3 of Ye Film Defender. Shiver me timbers, Miss... No. Alright. Welcome officially to episode 3 of the Film Defender, serving the public good one underrated movie at a time. Today, I'm coming to the defense of Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. What? Oh, it's the third one. No, not the one with the Kraken. No, Penelope Cruz is in the next one. Well, Davy Jones is in it, but it's not the one where he's first. Barbossa's in this one too, though. Yes, the one where they rescue Jack Sparrow from the dead. Finally, you guy's an idiot. Wrapping up the original trilogy, At World's End became the lightning rod for complaints about this series after the surprise success that was The Curse of the Black Pearl. So what was everyone's problem with this climactic, pyractic tale? Well, let's get into it, shall we? I mean, savvy? Let's get into it, savvy? Savvy. Yeah, I'll just let him do it.
Savvy?
Objection number 1. Why isn't there any action at the beginning? While the opening scene is a little stark for the fun adventure these movies typically promise, there is actually quite a bit of action in the first half of this film. As a matter of fact, it practically starts off with an exciting heist/battle sequence in Singapore, where the map to the land of the dead is being hidden, reintroducing us to all the characters we left off with at the end of the last movie, while setting them off on a new adventure. We're also introduced to the central conflict with the East India Trading Company, instituting martial law over the seas and killing pirates in droves. It sets up some dramatic stakes that have been lacking in the previous entry, and explores some really intriguing pirate lore about Davy Jones' locker and traveling to the titular World's End. In case you haven't noticed, a lot of cool things are happening at the beginning of this film. Who needs another pointless action scene to muddle things up? Who? Not me. Objection number 2. The movie's runtime is too long. Your face is too long. Except for that doesn't make any sense. Our perceptions of a film's length can be determined by a myriad of arbitrary factors, not least of which is the frame of mind with which we go into a film. People expecting a movie to suck are going to be begging for credits to roll whether it does or not, whereas those who are excited to see what happens next hardly even notice the time going by. Just to clarify a common misconception, a massive budget film like At World's End, which is still one of the most expensive films ever made, is actually about 10 minutes shorter than it appears on IMDb. You see, for those who don't know, movies have this thing called end credits, where all the people that worked on the movie are listed. True, it's still the longest of the Pirates films regardless, but almost every decent trilogy increases in runtime as it goes along. Given that it's the final film in the trilogy, I'm willing to allow a little indulgence here and there to wrap up the storylines we've seen over the last 3 movies in a satisfying manner. And so should you. Objection number 3. The storyline and character motivations are impossible to keep straight. Come on, they aren't that hard to keep straight. All you have to do is watch it a dozen times like I have, and you'll have it all figured out. Luckily, the plot is presented to us in small enough doses that we can still digest it and enjoy the action and character arcs along the way without too much confusion. At the end of the previous film, Jack Sparrow is marooned on a doomed black pearl as the Kraken appears to swallow him whole. Tia Dalma, the witch doctor/voodoo priestess we saw on Dead Man's Chest, sends the crew on a journey to resurrect everyone's favorite pirate. More on him later. However, each of the 3 main characters agreed to the voyage for different reasons. Will wants the Black Pearl, as it's the only ship fast enough to catch the Flying Dutchman, where Davy Jones is holding his father prisoner. Barbossa wants the Piece of 8, that will unleash the sea goddess Calypso on the East India Trading Company. And Elizabeth is tortured by guilt over her part in Jack's death. From there, we mainly see Will trying to find ways to free his father, Jack trying to become immortal by stabbing the heart of Davy Jones, and Elizabeth trying to find her place in all the double-crossing shenanigans. I actually like that this movie has overlapping motivations, as each character tries to accomplish their separate goals while being threatened by a major, seemingly unbeatable foe. It makes them seem like real people and gives more credence to the intellect of the villains. Objection number 4. There are way too many CGI creatures. Seriously? It's a $300 million movie about pirate legends. I would be upset if we didn't get cool-looking CGI creatures. I'm looking at you on Stranger Tides. A lot of thought and creativity went into the character design of the Flying Dutchman crew, and I still think Davy Jones is one of the coolest CGI creatures ever created. The fish-like features of Jones's slaves is great shorthand for the losing of one's humanity, as demonstrated by Jones himself. The fact that it's not only neat-looking but story-driven doesn't just allow me to accept the CGI fish creatures, but makes me legitimately happy to see them here. They finally get a chance to pay off in this film too, rather than their perfunctory appearance in Dead Man's Chest. Plus we get to see them turn back into normal people, so, you know, that's nice. Objection number 5. Jack Sparrow's not as fun as he used to be. You don't mean that. While I agree that Jack Sparrow will eventually lose some of his charm, it is absolutely not in this movie. His first appearance in Davy Jones' locker is so quirky and hilarious that I can't imagine anybody complaining about it. Having a hallucinating Jack Sparrow surrounded by different versions of himself is great stuff, and the mental break of him traveling to and from the locker carries that delusion throughout the rest of the film. His interactions with Gibbs are particularly funny, whether he's slapping him for no apparent reason, to which Gibbs simply shrugs his shoulders in understanding, or letting him throw his hat in celebration only to make him retrieve it again. While it's hard to recapture the pleasant surprise of our first exposure to Johnny Depp's performance as the neurotic pirate, his performance in At World's End may be his most eccentric and likable to date.
We shall have a magnificent garden party, and you're not invited.
It's time for yet another... Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! It's time to talk about the ending. For the entire movie, and really since the beginning of Dead Man's Chest, we've been building to the grand finale of Davy Jones' demise. The competition for who gets to stab the heart has gone back and forth ad nauseum, particularly in the last movie, and it appears that Jack Sparrow is finally going to get the ultimate defeat on the villainous Jones. But wait! Before Jack can puncture the heart with his broken blade, Jones throws a wrench into the mix by stabbing Will in the chest.
Slap me thrice and hand me to me mama.
Now Will is dying and Jack is holding his hopes of immortality in his hands, and while Jones is distracted by Bootstrap's last act of defiance, Elizabeth and Jack help Will to lift the blade and stab the heart, making him captain of the Flying Dutchman and killing Jones once and for all. But all this comes at a tragic cost, as the newly married couple can only see each other for one day out of every 10 years. This is where the incredible score by Hans Zimmer really hits its stride, with the sweeping romance and the heavy sorrow accentuating the moment perfectly. But despite this heavy blow, we see in an after-credits scene that their longing for one another is strong enough to keep them connected, and Elizabeth brings her 9-year-old son to meet his father for the first time as Will returns 10 years later. In closing, At World's End is criminally underappreciated, and may be my favorite of any Pirates of the Caribbean movie. The gorgeous music, the twisty plot, the trilogy's culmination, and the amazing visuals all combine to be a wholly satisfying experience to be enjoyed again and again. Pirates of the Caribbean At World's End's updated status? Defended. What did you think of Pirates of the Caribbean At World's End? Whether attacking or defending, join the fight in the comments section below. Also, is there a movie you love that deserves a strong defense? You can email me at thefilmdefender@gmail.com, tweet me at thefilmdefender, or simply comment below and tell me what film you want me to fight for. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more film defenses to come, and until next time, the defense rests. Alright, bleak. Time to get a little crazy. Whoa. What's that? Don't know.
Hi, sweetheart.
What you doing?
You're hot.
I know. Especially like this. Just to clarify a common misconception. Alright. No. At the end of the previous film, Jack Sparrow is marooned on a doomed black pearl. That's gonna be a tongue twister. As the Kraken appears to swallow him whole. At the end of the previous film, Jack Sparrow's Tia Dalma, the witch doctor / voodoo princess we saw in Dead Man... Tia Dalma, the... From there, we mainly see Will trying to... From there, we mainly see ways... having a... And yes, it's time for yet another... action scene to muddle things up, huh? Wait, here it comes. Okay.